Mr. Walton, did you make contact with aliens? Were you taken to another planet, to a mothership? How did they communicate with... Can you tell me what they look like? Can you tell me how many of them there were? Were you given food?
But the teachers are alive. They're not books. They are the very living essences of nature itself.
What a strange person.
Unbelievably powerful supercomputer that's running our reality, and we don't have a clue as to how to operate it.
So when maybe you or somebody else creates an AGI system and you get to ask her one question, what would that question be?
What's outside the simulation?
Say in your mind, say to yourself, I am more than my physical body, because I am more than physical matter. I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
Well, broadcasting from New York, upstate near the Great Lakes, it's Lighting the Void, and I'm your host, Joe Roop. Tonight, we're going to be discussing the technological singularity with a new guest tonight that's going to join us to talk about his near-death experience and what he saw and what he experienced during that near-death experience. If your first time listening to the show, we talk about all things strange, consciousness, internal and external, all the weird, paranormal, esoteric, parapolitical, you name it. Pretty eclectic show. Not too big into the sports and politics, but everything else we will discuss on this broadcast. I'm your host, Joe Roop. Tonight, we're also joined by our special co-host, the Night Stalker. I couldn't do a show about overlords of the singularity without Night Stalker. Doesn't work that way. I mean,
what's happening, brother?
I mean, you know, I could do one of those one of those shows where I spill my guts out, and then you would probably be like, man, I'll pass on that one. But if I'm going to talk about some
No.
you know, H.P. Lovecraft type stuff, you'll definitely come on, won't you? So,
you know who to call. Those rant shows are good though. Those are always classic.
The rant shows are always classic, huh?
Glad you asked me though. We got two pretty weird shows right in a row though. Yesterday we got deep into the conspiracies, and tonight we're going deep down the alien technological rabbit holes. So very cool.
Yeah, it is cool. Like, you know, I mean, we already talked about near-death experiences, but like the thing is if you had a choice, would you come back to this life? Think about that. Think about that for a second. Now, just for a second, but an asteroid that has been nicknamed after the Egyptian god of chaos is speeding up. Scientists recently revealed they named this asteroid Apophis. And if any of you have studied magic or the occult, you know Apophis, the Egyptian god of destruction, scientifically known as 99942 Apophis. This thing is 1,120 foot wide. That's a big rock.
It's a planet killer.
Yeah, it's a planet killer for sure. And it's supposed to come within 23,441 miles of Earth, which I don't think that, you know, it's going to matter. But I'm pretty sure by the time it gets here on 2029, I think that's what they're saying.
There's two flybys, I think.
Yeah,
one Friday the 13th, 2029. And then another one might hit us in 2068. I think that's the deal.
They say this, like, we have known for some time that the impact with Earth is not possible during the 2029 close approach. But these people at the University of Hawaii are talking about this. The new observations we obtained with the Subaru telescope earlier this year were good enough to reveal that the Yarkovsky acceleration of Apophis, and they show that the asteroid is drifting away from a purely gravitational orbit about 170 meters per year, which is enough to keep the 2068 impact scenario in play. So 2068 could be the day, could be doomsday.
Crazy.
Right? I don't know if I'll live that long. See, I don't think I'll live that long, but
I hope I'll be here. But
my son will be
Friday
here.
the 13th is the flyby. Another Friday the 13th asteroid thing. Crazy.
But why would they name it Apophis, man? It's almost like they're giving it magical power to destroy the Earth. You know?
NASA's ridiculous. They love that. They love picking all the real metaphysical, esoteric names. Like, the creepier the better for them.
Yeah, like
but,
if I was aware of magic and conscious, manifestation, I would have named it like Flea or something like that.
Well,
like,
what's Flea?
Like a flea, bug. Something
like Flea.
Something that's not very
harmless,
powerful.
Yeah, it's called harmless. Pillow. Yeah.
Not Apophis, all right? Or Apophis.
They got another one. They just found one called a planet called Goblin out past Pluto. Like, they keep like a year ago, I was not into the Planet X stuff at all. I thought it was like kind of garbage. But this year, there's just been so much weird rocks in space, fireball, asteroid stuff, like all the Comet Atlas stuff. They've just been like, they're not going to tell us what's coming, but these little hints is what I kind of like to look for. So that story you just said about Apophis, maybe like the trajectory might be changing. Piggybacked on with this story that just came out. They just found a planet outside of Pluto called Goblin, and they're saying they need a goblin. They're saying that it hints at a possible Planet X, that the trajectory indicates that there might be another object beyond this object that's like affecting it, which could be this Planet 9, Planet X thing that everybody's been talking about. And that's right in the mainstream news too. So none of these stories are saying Planet X is coming, but if you kind of read between the lines, in my opinion, I don't know, something's up.
Well, yeah, for sure. And everybody keeps talking about Dark Winter is coming too. So, I don't know.
The dark winter to me is what would happen if we got hit by an asteroid. That would create a pretty dark winter. But
yeah, well, I'm telling y'all, you guys that are listening from Arkansas, you don't need to be in these trailers anymore. Like, if you live in a trailer, I've lived in a trailer before. I'm not going to lie to you. If you live in a trailer, you need to get some type of underground storage, something, like those things explode. I don't know why I was thinking about that. I just thought about a trailer park just exploding, for some reason. That's what happens when trailer parks are the first to go all the time.
That's why I keep it mobile though. Just don't build it into the ground like some people do. You got to keep it so you can move it when you have to. There's nothing wrong with living in a trailer. I fantasize sometimes about getting an RV and just roaming around the country, finding cool stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. I
fantasize about that too. One day it'll happen. Now,
the Fringe van.
So back to our question, like if you had a choice, would you choose to come back to this life? If you had a near-death experience and whatever, like God, St. Pete, an alien, whoever you met said, well, you can go back and live on the earth, or you can come with me, and you're going to have a hell of a journey. I just can't tell you what it is.
Oh, man.
What would you do?
I'm going back.
You're going back?
I would probably, I'd probably ask him, if I go back, is the journey off? Like, or can I go back for 10 more years and then can we still have the journey when I come back? The place that goes after you die is not going anywhere. So like, I'd want as much time on this planet, on this realm that I can get. I don't know. The mystery is always something that you're like trying to figure out, but also once you're gone from this place, who's to say if you can ever come back? You can spend eternity on the other side. You only get 100 years here.
Yeah, because one hell of a journey could last like 10 seconds, actually, so you don't really know.
Yeah. Some of the best journeys are quick, But
I hear a lot of people talk about that, though, right? They just want to get off the earth. Just, I can't wait to leave the earth.
Not me. Not. I'm down with getting off the earth as far as like traveling into space and stuff. Like, I think there's a lot of evidence that would suggest that humans are meant to leave the gravity well of the planet, and that like we'll hit this whole renaissance with our bodies, with our consciousness, as soon as we start to explore space. But that's still living. That's still choosing to come back to this realm, But I'm not sure. Like I'm big on the, I get why Egyptians brought all this stuff with them, and I get like, I don't know, it's tough for me to say I want to get cremated or things I want to do with my body. Like, who's to say what goes on the other side? I really have no idea. So I like the idea of like freezing my body and that kind of stuff. You know, you never know.
Chance said, I got a motor home and it's beautiful. I named her Old Betsy and she's not going to let me down.
Yeah, Chance. That's what's up, Chance.
Y'all can join that chat room or Discord server too by going to the fringe.fm/chat room. So you remember my black magic mirror story?
I do, yeah.
You do remember that, right?
That's creepy, yeah.
Well, and I told you.
With the eyes. With those...
Yeah. I told you I was going to take a picture of the toy I was using.
Yep.
Well, I got together with a buddy of mine, the Esoteric Scholar. Some of you may have heard his podcast on the Fringe FM. And when we developed this product for magicians, by magicians, now you can take your practice with you. And it's a good time to announce it because it's Friday the 13th officially here on the East Coast. So I might as well go for it now, right? There'll be some marketing adjusting going on. It's a handmade portable altar box. And it's at lightingthevoid.com. If you scroll down, you'll see it. You can click on the picture. You can purchase one. It ain't cheap. I'm just telling you. But it's made perfect. And I have one of my own. It's something that we've been developing for a while. But seriously, if you're a magician or an occultist or any type of practitioner, tarot reader, whatever, you name it, like this is all you need. It's a suitcase. Now, what I will say is it's a altar box, pretty much like it's a suitcase. Opens up into an altar.
That's cool looking.
Yeah, it's got a black mirror and it flips around a chalkboard on one side, and it's got a universal floor plus a storage bin for whatever you want to put in there. It's super cool, super cool actually. I had the freakiest.
Want me to put in the chat?
Well, I had the freakiest magic ritual of my entire life using that thing, the freakiest one. And I think what happened with that, and I don't even know if I want to go back into that story. It's so long we don't have enough time. But, you know, it's like, can you imagine going through TSA with that thing? Right?
Oh, man.
Like they open it up and be like, whoa, what the hell
what
is
would
this?
they do, you think?
No, nothing. I mean, they don't do anything. Like, I've taken some crazy stuff through the airport, man, and they don't really do anything with it. You know, they don't. I don't know. Like Bruce Fenton, when he was talking about when he was in Turkey and they like strip searched him and all that stuff, that was pretty crazy. But I'm serious. I've never had any issues at the airport. Not one. Not a single.
Do you think if you pull it out, like, if you pull the box out, open it up, and they're checking it out, do you think while they're staring in the mirror they'll get hypnotized, and that's the chance you can get away? Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think I think if you take that through TSA, someone's probably going to definitely like want to look at it because it looks. Imagine when it goes through an X-ray machine, it's going to look kind of fishy, don't you think?
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, it's just going to look.
Just dress in a trench coat and like John Constantine, whatever. Really go cool.
Yeah, right. Like dress. Well, if Constantine was something that you really wanted to do, this would be the perfect thing to have for sure.
It's cool looking too. I'm looking at it right now. It's like looks high quality.
It is. It's super high quality and handmade, reinforced, all that jazz. It's like, I even got pictures of the guy making it too, but it's like,
what's in it? Like, what are you putting in it?
Well, you can put anything you want in it. That's what the compartments are for. You can put your candles, your tarot cards, your crystals, whatever you're into. You can even use it for like spiritual stuff if you want, man. Like even if you're just religious and you do Christian prayers or meditation, Buddhist meditation, whatever. Yeah. It's for anything. So most people, like when you travel or a lot of you guys live in little apartments and little spaces, you don't have anywhere to, it's like you're limited of what you can do. Now, I don't see a lot of Christians using the black mirror, but you can definitely flip it around, use the chalkboard and draw you a little cross or something and pray, right? I've used it so much now, I really don't need, back when I lived in the shack, dude, I had a whole temple. Like I had a temple.
Wow.
But I had enough room in there. The shack wasn't small, it was big. But now that I'm in this apartment, like it got me thinking, like I don't have a temple. I don't have anything. And plus I might not stay here. I might go somewhere else. And I just kind of missed having magic with me, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And this, like, if you were like a paranormal investigator or whatever, or some kind of person into going to weird places. Is this something you would suggest bringing to a weird place, or is that like
yeah, definitely. If you're a paranormal investigator, yeah, for sure. I mean, but only if you're like going to exercise spirits and stuff. And like I said, it's not cheap. There was a lot of effort and stuff, and it's made to order. It's handmade to order, but it's worth it. I promise you. And I've done plenty of magic in my life, and the most intense thing that ever happened to me was with this thing. Seriously. So
that's cool, brother.
It kind of looks like those old. You remember how they made those old vampire kits?
It does look like that. Yeah. Those are cool too. Yeah.
But it's not really like a vampire kit at all. So, but it's real. The vampire kits are more for like show and stuff.
Yeah, novelty.
Yeah, it's all BS. Like, this is real, man. This is the real deal.
I know.
If you
freaking me out.
If you're scared, it's already freaking you out. Why is everybody?
I'm looking at it right now.
Everybody's still scared of magic for some reason.
The Black Mirror thing. It's just like it's like a portal to another world. You know.
Oh, dude, it definitely
intimidates me. You know.
It definitely.
Like, if you were going to use this thing, like, do you have to like do any like preparation? Or do you have to like sage your spot first or whatever? Like.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You you definitely want to like, and we'll probably send something out with everybody that gets one too. You definitely want to like consecrate it for sure.
Yeah.
You know, like get your energy into it and nobody else's kind of thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it's something that you remember when I told you at 11:30 I got to go do my Halloween thing, right?
Yeah.
That's what I was using.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
it's trippy, man.
But I'm like an old school ceremonial magician, man. Like, so I like to have stuff like that. You know?
Yeah.
Somebody else might just like write a sigil on a piece of paper and, you know, pull a wank or something and call it magic. Not me. You know, things got to be real for me. But
if you have any wizards or witches in your life, this would be a pretty good Christmas gift.
Oh, hell yeah. It'd be a perfect Christmas gift for anybody. Absolutely.
It's not too much money either. Like, this is like, it's not that much money. It's
like,
just
it's not. And I'm going to try to, I don't know if I can, but I'm going to try to figure out a way where I can split it up into payments for people too. But you know, here's the thing. Like, I figured Friday the 13th when Mercury goes direct would be the best time to talk about it too. Launch it. I still got to like pretty up everything and make it all pretty, do some commercials and stuff for it. But I don't know. I'm just, you know, I get tired of waiting. So Brett, the esoteric scholar, the guy that does that podcast, he's the one that made it. And I approached him about the idea. I said, look, I got this idea. I want to make this thing. Can you do it? Let's partner up. And he's like, hell yeah, I'll do it. And he's a magician too. So this thing is made for magicians, by magicians, period. You can take your practice with you now. Pretty cool, huh?
Nice. They're very cool, dude.
Yeah, so enjoy. If you guys could get one, grab one. They're made to order. It takes a few weeks to come in, but it's totally worth it. It's probably the best thing you ever had. And if you want to be a professional exorcist or a professional Constantine, yeah, you definitely got to get one of these. I don't know why they won't.
I'm not even a big magic guy, but the collector in me is kind of just staring at the thing, being like, wow, that look pretty good on my shelf right here. Like, I
don't know why they won't, like, you know, redo that movie. I heard they were redoing Constantine they need to they need to come out with another
4 months, I hear. Yeah, no, they do. Like every like 4 months I hear Warner Brothers is in talks with Keanu Reeves to come back and do it. But there's another guy who's doing it for like the DC TV shows. I think that kind of throws off, like, there's multiple rights and stuff with it. So I think it kind of makes it complicated. But no, that's like, this decade is the decade where it goes from superhero comics, superhero comic everything, to supernatural comic stuff. So like, we're gonna get a bunch of Constantine, Hellblazer, Justice League Dark type stuff coming. Like, the occult world of Marvel and DC is coming up pretty soon. So get ready for that stuff.
Oh, more comic movies, huh? But the occult world is cool though. So they're gonna have more like Doctor Strange stuff.
Yeah, like Doctor Strange, like, is gonna be the first horror Marvel movie, and then that's gonna be like the pillar of this next like cinematic, like the next phase of the cinematic universe, and it's going to branch off with, like, they're going deep in the multiverses and the dream realms, and like,
I told you guys,
Blade. Huh?
I've been telling you guys the occult. This was going to be the popular thing. It was coming.
It really is. Like even in like my like just regular pop culture non-conspiracy shows I listen to, they talk about it as pretty openly, like that the supernatural world is getting big. A lot of major production companies are buying up as much of like supernatural books or Stephen King stuff. Lovecraft is a huge thing that's popping off right now. It's a good time to be a supernatural fan for sure.
Oh man, I really don't think it matters, honestly. Like, you know, and the thing with this altar box too is people are going to be like, man, that's the Black Mirror thing. You know, you hear how people talk about it. If you stare into your phones, it's the Black Mirror of the
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a Black Mirror, you can make a Black Mirror out of just about anything. It doesn't really matter, but the whole point is to like face yourself. It's like a shadow work tool for sure.
Yeah.
You know, if you call it, like the guy was talking about on Jeremy's show, if you call upon demons, where do you think they come from? Some external place? I'm not saying they're not real, and I'm not saying they're not dangerous, but they're, you know, like you got a whole kinds of stuff inside you need to work out. I know I do. Like I got to find the demon of like the thing that makes me eat M&Ms. Do you know that demon's name? Like I can't stop eating M&Ms.
I feel you, brother. No, I feel you. I just took a bunch of naps today. Like the nap demon got me. Algregor or whatever his name is. The sloth demon. He got me today. But you should do like some kind of classes or something like this. Like I'm looking at this altar box and I don't even know where I'd begin.
Oh yeah, like that's a good idea actually. Make some videos for it. Yeah, not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. And like as far as the logo for it goes, like everybody put their energy into this. Everyone that put their energy into this are 100% legit magicians. You know.
Yeah.
So just letting you know. Any other weird stuff going on?
Yeah, it was some weird stuff happening. Let me take a look see here. It's not too weird, but I just heard Europa glows in the dark. They just found that out.
Oh yeah, the moon.
So now there's a lot of Europa stuff. And Europa is like one of those classic, is there life on the moon of Jupiter thing. So now they're saying they're trying to get some satellites to go to Europa, which is a weird one. And that was the one that Richard Hoagland theorized has life. And then they put it in. Did you watch the new Watchmen show that was on HBO last year?
No.
It's awesome. It's really good. But they no spoilers. But they put Europa in that with some aliens and whatnot. Let me take a look. Oh yeah. So there was a British singer. Maybe some people in the chat might know her, but she recorded a music video recently with Charlotte Hannah. I've never heard of her before, but she went to 30 East Drive to record a music video, and apparently it's on all these most haunted lists. And I guess they recorded some they actually got like a ghost during the music video. They created some they actually like caught a spirit. So Charlotte Hannah describes to Iggy Pop the experience of recording the video for quote Poison, a dark eerie pop song with storytelling lyrics. Is this somebody that Ryan maybe should take a look into?
Yeah, well, for sure. He can probably do a whole show about it.
Yeah. So she's saying that water pools formed, lights turned off and on again, furniture overturned, pictures were slashed, objects levitated, disappeared, foul smells traveled to the house, and heavy breathing sounds. That's pretty crazy.
Holy hell.
Yeah. Do you ever go to a real haunted house before? Like any real haunted spots?
No, like there's a haunted hospital like in Haskell, Arkansas that I went to. But I don't ever hear anything. I always just get creepy feelings. Even when I was in Portland, you know, the tunnels that everybody talks about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went in those things with Clyde Lewis, and I mean, there was some weird stuff that happened, but every time it happened, I never caught a glimpse of it. Everybody was walking around with their cameras and their meters and all that stuff. But the story of that place is weird. How they used to trap people and like mess with them, like really, like it was this place where there was human trafficking. So they would. When you got off the docks at this place, man, and you were tired or whatever, the way that they would set you up is they'd say, oh, like these women, there was a window where these women would hang out of, and they'd tell these guys, come on in, da 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 da, and you go into the tunnel, and boom, they got you, dude. You're done.
Sirens.
Yeah.
Real life sirens.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. The tunnel stuff always freaks me out. They got tunnels, and I was watching a video a couple weeks ago. They have huge, like hundreds of miles worth of tunnels below Las Vegas, I guess. Like they built huge highway systems and stuff and they never used them. So there's like a massive, like the biggest homeless population, and like at least in America, if not the world, all live in a society with tunnels all underneath Vegas. And you have to like know people to get invited into the tunnels and stuff. But they were interviewing this one lady, and she was saying how there's stories with the tunnel people about how if you keep going lower and lower and lower, one of her friends or somebody she knew found these nests, these like huge nests of like these like humanoid creatures that live beneath the tunnels, like deeper than this tunnel people society, like deeper. Like as you go down, you see these nests pop up of these like ant people, or these, like underground stuff is fascinating to me.
Huh.
We don't know what's right beneath our feet. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. That stuff freaks me out, man, because that's easy.
Stuff, yeah.
That's easy, dude. For anybody to think about it, for anybody to get trapped into that's so easy. Because how many times have you walked at like any downtown big city or whatever? I don't know how you get out, but if I was in Las Vegas or downtown Portland or whatever, it's not to say it's not going to be too hard for me to walk around with a buzz, a little bit of a buzz. And, if you're single and you're not hooked up with somebody and some woman yells out the window, come on in, the party's in here. Like, you ain't going to take her right and go in that door. That's crazy.
So what he's saying is you would have been.
Oh, I definitely would. I would have been one of the guys that got duped for sure.
Yeah. It's big for like homeless people, I guess. Like it's just people move from if they lose their jobs, and like the people that are following are from Hawaii. But I guess if you're anywhere within distance where you can travel to Vegas, it's like a beacon for homeless people, and it's just a whole underground city. But then beneath the city, they're saying there's even more creepy stuff. Like I'm big in the underground base. Like there could be a whole other world beneath our feet, and like these little entrances, these little gateways to these weird worlds inhabited by like homeless people and stuff. It's like a natural barrier keeping us away from whatever mysteries are underneath us,
Yeah, right. That's crazy, man. It's just so trippy. Now we're going to have to like get our guest to come. We're going to have to go into break, and our guest is going to come on, talk about his near-death experience where he experienced the interdimensional nature of reality, and also look into the future, what's really going on with UFOs, aliens, the singularity technology. It's going to be trippy, guys. We'll be right back.
Nice.
The Night Stalker's the co-host tonight.
Yeah, brother.
Join our chat room. We'll open up the phone lines here in a minute. Go ahead and plug that number into your phone. It's 1-800-588-0335. Stay with us.
Hey Fringe listeners, this is Dave Cruz, host of Beyond the Strange Radio, asking you to join us live Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. Pacific Time, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Fringe FM. Visit beyondthestrange.com for links to chat, social media, and schedules of the show. And remember, always stay strange. Hasta.
This is the Rogie Report news on the Fringe FM. I'm Jess Rogie. Things are going to be changing soon at NASA. NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine, one of my favorite people to talk about, will not be staying on as head of the space agency. According to Aviation Weekly, Bridenstine stated, "The right question here is what's in the best interest of NASA as an agency, and what's in the best interest of America's exploration program." Bridenstine continued, "For that, what you need is somebody who has a close relationship with the President of the United States. You need somebody who is trusted by the administration, including the Office of Management and Budget, the National Space Council, and the National Security Council. And I think I would not be the right person for the new administration, Bridenstine said on November 8th. The NASA administrator is hopeful for the Artemis mission. We're in a good position as a country, he said. If you look at the bipartisan and apolitical support we have from members of Congress on both sides of the aisle, there is strong support for Artemis, Bridenstine said. NASA announced its Artemis program, which now aims to send the first woman and the next man to the moon by 2024. The program also aims to establish a sustainable human presence on the lunar surface by 2028. The last time humans were on the moon was 1972. Traditionally, it was taught that men hunted and women gathered food. Well, according to an article in National Geographic, prehistoric female hunter discovery upends gender role assumptions. In 2018, Randall Hawes, an archaeologist at the University of California, Davis, and his team excavated the remains of an over 9,000-year-old skeleton. The remains appear to be of a really great hunter, according to Hawes. Further analysis revealed it was indeed an ancient female hunter, and was not an anomaly. The team's find was followed by a review of previously studied burials of similar age throughout the Americas, and it was revealed that between 30 and 50% of big game hunters could have been biologically female. I'd say 30 to 50% is a high percentage. Interesting. This is the Rogie Report News on the Fringe FM. I'm Jess Rogie.
This is KTLK Digital Broadcasting, where the normal and paranormal collide. It's the Fringe FM.
Back to Lighting the Void. I'm the host, Joe Root. Our guest host tonight, the Night Stalker. Now, if you had a choice, would you choose to come back to this life or let yourself be taken to the next if you had a near-death experience? Right? And how do near-death experiences open understandings to metaphysical and paranormal realities and any kind of reality? We've already had one pretty I would say insane story I never thought I would heard. And here's another one. This one's going to be pretty intense too. Our guest tonight, Russel Brinegar, is here with us, and a very interesting story we're going to get into. And following a near-death experience that prompted a personal awakening to the underlying interdimensional nature of reality, Russel Brinegar shares insights into the realm of the paranormal. In his book, Ghosts, Cryptids, Flying Saucers, and UFOnauts are explored. UFO lore and its societal impact are analyzed, along with symbolic relationship between science and science fiction. The mission of flying saucers is examined regarding the impending technological singularity, the advent of sentient artificial intelligence, and transhumanism, all predicted by futurists to occur sometime between 2045 and 2080. Russel, thanks for coming on the program, and it's good to have you.
Hey, good to be here. It's fun. It's up past my bedtime. It's nice and quiet, and I'm interested in a nice conversation here.
Yeah, welcome to the late night. I'm sure you've been here before. So, yeah. So it's cool. Your book cover is awesome, Overlords of the Singularity, and you make sure that you put on top of that, it says nonfiction, right? So people, because it looks like a fiction book. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. It goes into some areas where I had to put that label on there. People would think it was a novel, a science fiction novel.
Well, what happened? Tell us about your near-death experience. What happened?
Okay. Well, leading up to that, let me just give you a little background. I grew up in Titusville, Florida, which is the Space Coast down in Florida.
Yeah.
So I was one of these guys. I'm 65 now, so I was one of these guys that grew up without technology altogether. We built forts out in the woods and had skateboards of 2x4s with metal skates tagged to them. And we didn't have any iPhones or anything like that. So I feel really fortunate. I watched all the moon rockets go off, the Saturn V moon rockets, and entered the Army and traveled around for a while and wound up in sales. I had a career in sales for a while, and then got out of that and entered college at the age of 37 and got a bachelor's degree in occupational therapy. So I was a rehab manager at a local nursing home here in Newcastle, Indiana. And on August the 18th of 2009, I decided to go home and mow my grass. And it was a nice hot day. And I went home, opened up the garage door and started up the lawnmower. And as I got about 15 feet, I experienced a really heavy sort of fatigue. And the first thing I thought of was that maybe I was dehydrated. So I went into the house and got a glass of water and kind of flip-flopped, turned the air conditioner on in the bedroom and laid down for a while. I didn't feel very good, but started feeling a little bit better. Wanted to get the lawn mowed and go back to work. So like a dummy, I went out there and pulled the starter handle on it and kept going. And I got another 15 or 20 feet. And the same thing happened, only about 10 times worse. And since I was in healthcare, I instantly recognized at that point what was happening to me. I was having a heart attack, and it was so sudden and so rapid. I was pretty sure I was going to die. And I considered myself an agnostic at that time. I grew up as a fundamentalist Christian, but I sort of outgrew that at the age of 13. In fact, I wrote a book in 2000 called Outgrowing the Bible, The Journey from Fundamentalism to Free Thinking. And that book back in 2000, 9 years before the heart attack, I delved into a lot of the origins of the Old Testament stories, like the story of Noah being traced to Untapishtim, the Sumerian tale, and the Epic of Gilgamesh. So there's a lot of good information in that, but I sort of considered myself an agnostic. Maybe there's life after death, maybe there's not. I didn't know. And then when I knew I was having a heart attack in my yard, the first thing I thought of was, oh, goody, I get to find out for sure what's behind this whole thing, if anything. At the time, I adhered to what's called physicalism or material reductionism, which is basically consciousness as an epiphenomenon of the brain. So when your brain dies, that's adios muchacho. I mean, that's it, just an eternity of unconsciousness. So more than anything, I didn't really feel afraid. I was just kind of looking forward to it for some reason. So I started looking around for a place to fall down. I didn't want to fall and hit my head and have somebody find me all bloody. So I was looking for a place in the grass just to kind of lay down and pass away. And all of a sudden, it was almost like somebody took a dimmer switch and just like changed reality a little bit. And I was standing there, and suddenly I knew I was going. I knew I was going to either just fall down or I didn't know what was going to happen. And to my utter astonishment, I found myself surrounded by some company. I had what I would refer to as etheric beings. The people that it was almost like I Googled Russ is dying into the universe, and then these associated links were popping up. And it was a mental connection. For some reason, I was compelled to look in the direction of the sun. And it was almost like, like on the Predator movie, where you just like barely see that little shimmer.
Yeah.
It was sort of like that. But I got a positive identification on several of the beings. And to my surprise, what really puzzled me was that a couple of them were still alive. I mean, I know these people. They were living their lives out in various places in the United States. And several people very close to me. I had a woman that was the mother of my daughter, and I had a best friend here in town, my mother, my father, my brother. And it was very comforting to be suddenly surrounded by individuals that I had been close with in this life. But the strangest part of all was I encountered what I would call a transcended version of myself. It's, you've heard that everybody has kind of like a higher self. And I encountered that guy, and that really freaked me out. And I was really looking forward to being with them. I mean, it's such a comforting feeling that you just want to go ahead and cross the veil. And I later learned this as the Oz factor. Jenny Randall's coined that term with alien abductions and stuff, where there's no sound anymore. I mean, the bird chirping, the sounds of the traffic, it was all just like dead silent. And there I was in the company of these familiar spirits. And in an instant, they gave me a download of information that, and it was more in the form of a mental impression. I know it now as a moment of clairsentience. And it was the feeling that you're welcome to cross over. We're here for you. But are you sure you want to exit right now? Life is very fragile and very precious, and you might want to, decide to live a little bit longer, but you need to make up your mind pretty quick. So once I got that definite impression from them, I thought about it for a few moments. I don't really know how many moments or minutes this actually entailed, because the chemicals that flood your brain, like ketamine and glutamine and dopamine and DMT, that facilitates this type of experience, alters the way you perceive time. So I have really no idea the exact amount of time I was standing there. But considering it, as tempting as it was to cross over and just be on the other side, now that I knew that there was activity on the other side, and it was really cool, sort of like waking up from a dream in the morning, it dawns on you that there's this other layer of reality that you're connected to, and then what you were dreaming just kind of fades away as like a non-real. And that's the way this physical life kind of felt, that everything I had lived to that point. I was 54 years old in 2009, and it just seemed like a dream. And it seemed like this other reality was the underlying reality that I really wanted to get to. But I thought that it would be really cool staying here a little bit longer and knowing that there is life after death, that consciousness does survive after your physical body dies. So I decided to stay alive. So I went inside the house and got the keys to my car. At the time, I drove a 2000 triple black Camaro convertible that I was real proud of. And I drove myself to the hospital with the top down. And I was totally confident that I would make it to the hospital because I had just had this experience and I had made my choice. So I didn't think they were going to let me down, let me, just run off the side of the road and, die in some guy's yard and have them call the 911. So I pulled up to Henry County Hospital here in Newcastle, Indiana, and I got out of the car and I just kind of had my keys in my hand and I handed them to the guy at the information desk. I said, I'm having a heart attack. Would you park my car and bring me my keys wherever they take me? And of course, his eyes are big as saucers. And he says, sure. So he scrambles out there. They put me in a wheelchair and took me in a room. And all of a sudden I hear morphine. And the doctor came over to me and said, yes, you're having a heart attack, but we're not really set up to facilitate that. We have to ship you up by ambulance to Muncie, which is about a 40-minute drive.
Oh, man.
So they put me on a stretcher, and when they took me outside, the sun hit my face again, and it was such a great feeling knowing that I had just been with these familiar people to me, and that I was sure they were aware of what I was going through. So I had no fear at all. And as a kid, I always wondered what it was like to ride in an ambulance with the siren going. So I got to find out what that was like. That was pretty cool. And as they're carting me up to Ball Hospital in Muncie, there was two EMTs. One was in his 50s, and there was a younger female. And they kept looking at the monitor with these worried looks on their faces, like they thought they were going to lose me. And I kind of felt sorry for them. And at the time, I had my Captain Kirk flip open cell phone that I hung on to before I converted to the iPhone. And I just started casually texting people. I texted my boss. I said, I don't think I'm going to come back to work today. And I'm having a heart attack, And I heard, I wanted to cheer him up and humor him a little bit. So I told him a story of me being at a campground that I belonged to for about 15 years now, that I got stung by a bee. And I heard the older male EMT say he'll think bee sting when he gets to that cath lab. And I didn't really know what he meant, but I was going to find out. And so I go to Ball Hospital and they wheel me in there, and there's like 3 or 4 doctors all scrubbed up. And they just kind of gave me a quick in-service. They said, what you really need is a quadruple bypass. But if you elect to, we can try a couple of stents. There's no guarantee that the stents will work, but you can go that route first if you don't want the major operation. And I said, I really don't know the details about all that. Can you give me a rundown? So in about 30 seconds, they told me the difference between having a couple of stents placed and a quadruple bypass. And I said, I'll take the stents, please.
Yeah.
So I went into the stent lab, and that was a really interesting experience because you got this guy with these little goggles, looking down at you, and they give you some kind of drug where it hurts when they go into the femoral artery. I remembered what the guy said. He'll think bee sting when he gets to the cath lab because blood squirts everywhere, and they're going through your femoral artery, to run a line up to your heart. But you get to watch it on television. And meanwhile, the nurses are asking me all these questions. Have you ever smoked marijuana? Yes. Have you ever taken LSD? Quite a bit, actually.
What is that? What does marijuana have to do with it? What seriously?
Well, I don't know. I mean, the nurses were just getting background information, I guess, while this guy was doing the stents. And one of the nurses said, well, at least he's honest. Right. So I get to watch this little thing. It looks like a Chinese handcuff that goes up on the artery of your heart. And that artery was completely collapsed. It was like if you took a hose and just twisted it, you got that closed off section. And I was really afraid that when the stent went up there, that it was going to break the artery, but it didn't. They stick it in there, and then with a little twist of his wrist, the stent actually pops open, and it gets the blood flowing again. So they did the first one, and they did the second one, and he said they were both successful. And the next thing that happened was they rolled me out of the cath lab. I spent one night overnight in the hospital, and they rolled me past one of the people that showed up in my yard in etheric form. It was a woman that I had dated about 3 years. And a year ago at this time, I had broken up with her because she had dated for 3 years and wanted to take the relationship to the next level. And I'd already been married twice, and I didn't want to do it again. So I actually broke up with her.
Oh, man.
I wasn't having it.
Yeah.
But they wheeled me. And she was standing there with tears running down her face. And it turns out they wouldn't let her in because she wasn't family, She was one of the people I texted on the way. And when they rolled me past Julie, I told myself right then and there, I said, I'm going to fix this. And after my overnight stay in the hospital, they sent me home. And she kept coming over and fixing me food and taking care of me and stuff. And that was August the 18th, or August the 19th would be the day after. And on October the 30th of that same year, like 2 months later, Julie and I flew to Las Vegas, and we got married by a Dracula impersonator. So,
oh, wow.
That's cool.
So, yeah, it was really neat. I mean, I really recommend that type of marriage package. It's $450. We got the Gothic package. And that includes the webcam where all your friends can, watch if they're interested. There's no RSVPs. Nobody has to buy anything. They don't have to get in their car, dress up. Nothing.
Where is this at again?
Las Vegas.
Vegas, the goth package. I'll remember that one.
Oh yeah, we got online and picked out the goth package. You can do an Elvis impersonator or a Dracula impersonator, but we went with Dracula, and it was really fun because there I was standing there. They pick you up in a limo. We stayed at the Stratosphere, and we went in there, and I was standing on the stage where this was going to happen with the webcam going, and they had Julie in the other room. and all of a sudden smoke started pouring down the stage, and they played this creepy music, and the curtains opened, and a coffin comes out, and then it creaks open, and this guy in whiteface, that's the Dracula impersonator, he pops out, and then they bring Julie in, and he does the whole ceremony. And I was just thinking to myself, at that point, I was thinking, I'm really glad that I stayed alive for this, because this is a lot of fun. But after that was all done, I just became really obsessed with trying to figure out what in the hell happened to me that day. I started researching near-death experiences and anybody that would write about it. And I started out with Dr. Eben Alexander, the Proof of Heaven, and his whole experience as a neurosurgeon who was absolutely brain dead and yet had a phenomenological experience with confirmation that it was actually real. And I ran into Dr. Kenneth Ring, and the strange thing about Dr. Kenneth Ring and the Omega Project is he connected near-death experiences to similarities that he noticed with alien abduction experiences.
Yeah.
Now, at this time, I was a UFO skeptic. I was one of these guys that just accepted the Condon report, that came out in 1969 when I was about 13. They said there wasn't anything to it. Then they shut Project Blue Book down. Nobody really thought any more about UFOs. I mean, it did a really good job to the public of just like turning them off to the subject.
Yeah.
And I was real curious of why that would be an actual connection between near-death experiences and UFOs. But that got me interested in the UFO literature. And but at the time, I was one of these guys that would say, you can't get here from there. The distances are too large. They're not going to come here to crash in the desert or doodle in our cornfields. I was just like, just no,
Sure.
there's no such thing. It's just, hallucinations or mistaken natural phenomena or whatever. But once I got into the public domain on this thing, I was shocked at the actual number of classic cases. You got the Cash Landrum incident, the Great Airship Mystery of 1896 and 97, all the different alleged flying saucer crash events.
Betty and Barney Hill near me.
Yep.
Dr. Jacques Vallée, I became a student of John Keel. I really like John Keel. I've read everything that he ever wrote in any magazine article that he ever wrote in. There's a fellow named Andrew Colvin that's put together some really nice collections of his writings as of late on audible.com. He's got the Flying Saucer to the Center of Your Mind, the Outer Limits of the Twilight Zone, the Persepacious Percipient. There's quite a bit of literature on John Keel and his take on it. And of course, he was the one that coined the term ultra-terrestrial. He didn't buy the extraterrestrial hypothesis and basically thought that there was an adjacent dimension that might even be indigenous to Earth that are interacting with humans in bizarre ways. And this actually coordinates with the declassified British Condign report, which says there's a luminous phenomenon on the planet that seems to have an intelligence of its own and interacts with human consciousness in bizarre ways. So, and about 3 years after the heart attack, I got a call from a guy at camp that was a ghost hunter, and he invited me if I wanted to go to the Rhodes House in Atlanta, Indiana. It's allegedly a ghost house that actually had hauntings there. And the first thing I thought of was, I'm just going to watch paint dry. I'm not interested in this. But what came out of my mouth was, sure, I'd love to. So I went and met Carl and spent the night in a haunted house, a bona fide haunted house, the Rhodes Hotel in Atlanta, Indiana. And that was really fascinating to me. Of course, a lot of people showed up with their EVP equipment. Some of them had really fancy electronic voice equipment. And other people just had the little ghost radar on the cell phone, which I thought was funny at first because I'm just thinking, with my background, I've got a brother who's an engineer. I was thinking of some engineer making a random word generator, for a ghost radar, who may be getting a kick out of the people that people think they're communicating with the other side with this thing. But there's actually some credence to that. There's a fellow named Dr. Dean Radden, who's the professor of noetic sciences out in California.
Yeah.
And he's done quite a bit of work with random word generators. and discovered that there's some evidence that human thought can interact with electronic devices. And John Keel in his writings talks about talking to ufonauts on the phone and having encounters with men in black and stuff. So there's a lot of strange things. But see, now my mind was open because I had this experience in 2009 of something that I would never have imagined was even possible. I was now open-minded to a lot of things that I formerly was closed to, because I thought, well, if I had this near-death experience and, I actually ran into etheric beings and a transcended version of myself, I mean, what else is there? I mean, nothing's more strange than that. And then I ran into a lot of the channeled material, like the raw material and the Seth material. And because I had this near-death experience, the Seth Speaks material and the raw material really resonated with me. And I particularly liked the raw material with Carla Ruckert, where it said that each one of us has a higher self that exists in the sixth density. This is the third density. Our higher self exists in a sixth density in what we would call the distant future. And strangely, the raw material that says we all have a higher self in the sixth density and what we call the distant future actually coordinates with Dr. Nick Bostrom and his simulation hypothesis, where he says that we're actually in a post-singularity population who are running ancestor simulations for some reason. And also the philosopher David Chalmers has a version of Bostrom's simulation hypothesis called the matrix hypothesis. He started out calling it the mind-body hypothesis, but he changed it to the matrix hypothesis. And according to Chalmers, we have a two-way informational feed between our physical life and what we consider to be ourselves, and this higher, more transcendent version of ourselves that exists outside of local space-time in a non-local hyperspace realm. And there's actually a two-way channel of communication that you can actually access information from your higher self, and then your higher self is gleaning information from this physical life that we're living. And it also ties in with, there's a fellow on Gaia named Greg Braden, and he also believes that we're a post-singularity civilization that are running ancestor simulations for the purpose of this, who we really are is like wanting to go to this other realm where we have to learn the lessons that we're learning here in order to enter this other higher realm. And that also coordinates with the raw material, because this sixth density higher self that we all have is trying to enter the seventh density, which is the portal to the cosmic supermind. So this higher transcended version of ourselves that lives outside of local space-time has goals of its own. It's trying to do certain things that, with our limited cognition, we might not even be able to understand, but it is gleaning information from this life that we're living. So it makes you a lot more conscious about how you live. What I found out through my near-death experience was what's going to cross your mind as you die is relationships that you've had here where you were responsible for causing harm to other people. And at least that's what happened to me. I can only speak for myself. I know this is a subjective experience, but that's what was on my mind as I thought that I was going to go ahead and cross the veil, as I felt deep anguish and grief over disharmonious relationships here. So I've done a lot. I married Julie. That was one of the relationships. I had an estranged daughter in Hawaii that I went to visit and tried to work things out with that. So I've done everything that I could to rectify those situations and try to clear out my karma, so to speak. And just be straight with everybody, be real honest with everybody, be as loving as possible as I can with everybody. And it also changes the way that I looked at people when I went back to my job as an occupational therapist in a nursing home. Prior to that near-death experience, when I graduated in 1997, I got my first job in 1999 in a long-term care facility. And for about a year, it kind of depressed me, because I was looking at people and interacting with people all day long that were at the end of their life, and a lot of them were decrepit and their quality of life was completely gone. And my job as an occupational therapist was to restore their independence with things like dressing, grooming, bathing, toileting, feeding, all the things where they'd lost their independence, either through seating and positioning or adaptive equipment, or any way I could to make them as independent and improve their quality of life as possible. But after this near-death experience, and after the research that I did into near-death experiences and all these interdimensional ideas that are floating around with the channeled material and straight research, is I now looked at these people in wheelchairs as having a sixth density higher self in what we call the distant future that's trying to glean information, from that physical life as long as it's alive. And what I concluded was maybe earlier in their life, it was all about the love that they could give to other people. But now in their incapacitated condition, it was about accepting love, from other people. And that's what their higher self was learning. And I've even gotten down and talked to people that were almost catatonic and addressed their sixth density higher self. Of course, I kept that conversation from my coworkers because they probably would have thought I was crazy. But it's really interesting, some of the expressions that would come over their face and the reactions that I got, when I didn't just address their current version of themselves, but, the transcended version of themselves. So it really changed the way I interacted with my clients. Really? And I've been retired for about 3 years now. And I just pretty much full-time just read and take care of my dogs and just, live a pretty solitary life. My wife, Julie, we've been married, like 11 years now. We just had an anniversary October 30th, and we're doing fine. She's my best friend. I'm really glad that I stuck around and married her because she's really a super person.
Well, we're glad you stuck around too, actually. So, because I want to, we got to take a break here. We're at the top of the hour. Okay. Well, we're past the top of the hour, actually, but I want to get into the meaning of what they meant and all the stuff that happened to you during this near-death experience. Because I know you made that was a lot there, but there's some questions I want to dig into here about what's coming in our future. We'll be right back with Russel Brinegar and our co-host Night Stalker. Stay with us.
Hey.
This is KTLK Digital Broadcasting, where the normal and paranormal collide. It's the Fringe FM.
Brian Gable here, and I'd like to invite you to my radio broadcast, The Secret Teachings, airing 5 nights a week right here at midnight Pacific on the Fringe FM. Whether you enjoy history, the paranormal, symbolism, the occult, magic, parapolitics, or our annual Super Bowl show, our breakdown of the music entertainment industry, or our practical look at health, we have something for you that's unique, informative, and fun in rare form. Find us at facebook.com by searching facebook.com/The Secret Teachings. Find us online by searching www.thesecretteachings.info, or you can email us at rdgable, rdgable, @yahoo.com. That's The Secret Teachings, Monday through Friday, right here at midnight Pacific on the Fringe FM.
Have you ever wanted to dream about being a character in your favorite video game or movie? Would you like to dream your fantasy with all 5 senses in detail and remember everything? It's time to bring the dreaming mind back online. Introducing Dreaming for Gamers from Ian Wilson.
Dreaming for Gamers will teach you how to program your dreams to dream what you want from any video game, movie, or source material that you choose. The courses help rehabilitate the dreaming mind out of atrophy so you can remember your dreams, taste, touch, smell, see, and hear, as well as be self-aware and take complete control over the dream state like Neo in The Matrix. You can't catch COVID in a dream, but you can wake up with a happy ending.
Type in thefringe.fm/dreamplay and sign up today to get dreaming now. That's thefringe.fm/dreamplay, or click the banner at thefringe.fm today and take the 7-day dream challenge for free while it lasts.
Have you ever seen an ad or banner which brought you a feeling that someone is reading your mind or even listening to your conversations? Your online data is being used against you. Surfshark is a VPN service that makes online privacy protection easy and attainable. You can use it on as many devices as you'd like simultaneously. Surfshark encrypts all internet traffic sent to and from your devices and ensures that your IP address remains hidden. The VPN service that we use at UFO Seekers, plus 1 month free for $1.99 a month. Visit surfshark.deals/seekers.
This is the Rogie Report News on the Fringe FM. I'm Jess Rogie. If everything is a microcosm of something else, then it's no surprise that gravitational molecules could orbit black holes, similar to how electrons swirl around atoms. Black holes are known for a couple of things. One, they're black, and two, they're holes. According to Life Science, a team of researchers has shown that a special kind of particle can exist around a pair of black holes. In a similar way, an electron can exist around a pair of hydrogen atoms. This would be the first example of a gravitational molecule. This strange object may give us hints to the identity of dark matter and the ultimate nature of space-time. But I suggest you read further because it's a highly complicated subject. Typically, when I bring up the Pentagon, it has to do with UAPs. Well, that's not what we're talking about today. On the 9th of November, Defense Secretary Mark Esper was fired by the president. Christopher Miller, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, has been appointed as acting defense secretary. The next day, the Pentagon confirmed the resignation of the department's top civilian officials for policy and intelligence. Retired Brigadier General Anthony Tata will take over as the acting policy chief on a temporary basis, according to Politico. As one of the most senior officials in the Pentagon, the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy is the principal advisor to the Defense Secretary on major national security and defense policy issues. On a lighter note, a California sheriff's office needs help finding Bigfoot. A Bigfoot statue was taken this week from the Bigfoot Statue Museum in Felton, California on November 11th. The Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office released a description of the wooden statue, 4 foot tall, weighing between 150 and 200 pounds. A large wooden bear was also taken around the same time. It is unknown at this time whether they got up and walked away on their own or were taken. If you spot this Bigfoot or his friend, the wooden bear, please contact the Santa Cruz Sheriff's Department non-emergency line. Hopefully somebody spots this Bigfoot and his friend the wooden bear so they can be safely returned to the Bigfoot Museum. This is the Rogie Report News on the Fringe FM. I'm Jess Rogie.
I don't know all the answers to the questions about reality. I do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of the family of explorers of consciousness. I am a void walker. Hey, this is Macon, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Root.
lines are open 1-800-588-0335. Tonight, our guest, Russel Brinegar. And a pretty interesting story. We're talking about what happened following his near-death experience that gave him an awakening to our underlying interdimensional nature of reality. All the insights he shared with us in his story before the break. He's wrote books about ghosts, cryptids, and flying saucers, ufonauts, UFO lore, how it impacts our society. And that's what we're going to get into here, because I want to discuss the mission of flying saucers, the technological singularity, and the advent of sentient artificial intelligence. Now, you wouldn't think this would happen during a near-death experience, but after some of the stories we heard this week, I just, I don't know anymore. Like, we don't know what happens after we die. All we can do is listen to the stories of the people that tell us what happens when they've had their experience. And, so our co-host tonight is Derek, the Night Stalker, is with us again. And thanks, Russell, for sharing your story with us about this. There's probably so much more to this story, that you went through with this heart attack and your near-death experience. I'm just curious as to when the event happened. What did you see? Did you see anything? Like, what was the first thing that you saw?
Well, I can't say that I saw much of anything with my physical eyes, but it was almost like I had a second set of eyes inside my mind. This was all an interaction inside my own mind, but it was more real than what this world is. And that's the only way that I know how to explain it. I mean, I've gotten into the scientific explanation of what happens. When you're about to die, your brain releases glutamine, ketamine, DMT, all kinds of chemicals affecting your amygdala and your hippocampus. And that controls the way that you perceive the flow of time. If you get into loop quantum gravity physicist Carlo Rovelli's book called The Order of Time, he explains how time works. And when you're having this near-death experience and you're experiencing what Jenny Randles calls the Oz factor, which a lot of people who experience alien abductions, have this Oz factor where they're kind of paralyzed and their perception of time is really different. It is a very stark, profound experience that is hard to put into words because it's happening on a mental layer of reality beyond the physical world. And that's the best way I can explain it.
And that's why you said maybe that the Seth Speaks material kind of rang true to you there too as well, right? Because that's some pretty profound stuff. And that's kind of like all happening in the consciousness too.
Yeah, the Seth Speaks material is really interesting. I've watched some videos on Jane Roberts, and there's no way her as the natural person that she is, that she could have just fabricated all this. I mean, this was all coming from a trance state. Another body of information is the Urantia material. That came from a psychologist, actually, I think back in the 30s, named William Sadler. And he had a female client that reported to him that her husband was going into a trance and saying weird things. So he started taking notes, and this became the Urantia book. And it was published in 1955 and just outlines a fantastical cosmology where our planet Earth, is referred to by the celestial beings in the Urantia book as Urantia. And our universe of Nebadon is one of many universes that consists of a super universe called Orvanton, and there's like 7 super universes circling a grand universe. It's completely non-falsifiable and unprovable, but it's really, even if it's all science fiction, it's really interesting to read. And it's got a whole section on there of the life and times of Jesus that's very moving. I mean, if it's fiction, it's really moving fiction, and has a different take on his mission here on Earth. So, yeah, there's channeled material from the Prism of Lyra that says humanoid life in our galaxy started out in the Lyra constellation and then eventually settled on a planet called Maldak, which was between Mars and Jupiter. And coincidentally, there's a scientist named Dr. Tom Van Flandern that has the exploded planet hypothesis. By his estimation, about 3 million years ago, when the only thing that was on Earth was little 4-foot-tall monkey creatures called Australopithecines, this planet exploded. And he has a lot of good videos on YouTube about the evidence that there was debris that was blown into the rest of the solar system. There's one of the moons of Saturn that's like black on one side and white on the other, indicating that it got hit with debris on one side of it. And it's thought that Mars was a moon of Maldak, and then it became, it arrived in an orbit of its own. So there's a lot of really interesting material out there in the public domain that ties into UFOs. And Robert M. Wood was an ex-aerospace engineer. He knew William Tompkins, the guy that wrote Selected by Extraterrestrials. He passed away at the age of 95 about a year ago, I think. But him and his son, Ryan, wrote a book called Magic Eyes Only, where they outline about 75 alleged flying saucer crashes and give different credences to each one of them and the technology, the extraterrestrial technology that was gleaned from them. And what I concluded after reading Keel's material and Dr. Jacques Vallée's material is there does seem to be a technological impulse in human interactions with flying saucers. And I don't think any type of intergalactic being would come here and crash in the desert. So my current perception is that these are intentionally staged events to prompt us on the road to a technological singularity. Now, a technological singularity, for those that aren't familiar with the term, is just a point in time where we've been going by Moore's law, where the technology doubles every year, but we're just kind of on the dog leg of a period of exponential growth where it may be doubled this year, and then that's doubled next year, and then that's doubled. So it culminates into this event, which futurists like Ray Kurzweil and others are predicting anywhere as little as 2025 to 2045 to 2080, somewhere in there, where the technology will expand to the point where things like sentient artificial superintelligence is around, and augmented intelligence, whole brain emulation, people uploading their consciousness into computers, and all kinds of bizarre things like that. Now, when it comes to that subject, there's what I would call a techno-optimist, like Ray Kurzweil. He's taken like 250 dietary supplements trying to keep his body alive until this happens so that he can become amortal. Now, the difference between amortal and immortal is if you're an amortal cyborg, you're still subject to accidents. I mean, you could destroy yourself in an accident, but barring any accident, you could live indefinitely, theoretically, in that type of form. And there's a lot of fear associated in the techno-pessimist realm where they see artificial superintelligence as an existential threat, that it may just decide to use all the atoms in the human bodies to convert it to computronium for its own purposes. And there's an interesting AI researcher named Steve Omohundro who postulates what an artificial superintelligence might want to do. And it includes things like rendering itself invisible, colonizing the galaxy, converting itself to a spaceship, and all kinds of really interesting things. And then Dr. Nick Bostrom speculates that once we achieve, right now there's 56 companies that are working on what they call AGI, artificial general intelligence, and that's human level artificial intelligence. And Bostrom speculates that once whoever gets there first out of these 56 companies, one of them's DARPA. Let's hope DARPA doesn't get there first. But I'm hoping it's the Machine Intelligence Institute. There's people like Eliezer Yudkowsky and Ben Goertzel that are working on the correct cognitive architecture to go into the first AGI so that it's not operating on our current level of morality. What they're trying to train it to do is to glean all of the philosophies of mankind and make decisions based on what's best for humanity in the long run. So our future, whether it's a utopia or a dystopia, is really in the hands of these 56 companies that are working on AGI, and the person that gets there first, because Bostrom says once the first AGI is created, it'll be 2 hours to 18 months until it converts itself through evolutionary algorithms and deep machine learning into what they call artificial superintelligence, which is billions and billions of times smarter than every human being on Earth. And who knows what a conscious artificial superintelligence would want to do with itself. My speculation is that there's humanoids on other planets in our galaxy, and a technological singularity is a natural evolution for that planet to go through. But what I'm noticing is that the sociological evolution of humans on this planet isn't even remotely ready for a technological singularity. We're way behind sociologically. Our technology is way ahead. Now, there's possible reasons for this. There's a really good contact case called the Friendship Group, or the W56 group, that interacted with about 200 Italian contactees from 1956 to 1967. And they seem to be humanoids of various sizes, from like really short to really tall. There's one photograph of one of them called Kineo that optical physicists have gotten a hold of, and they found out that he's about 12 foot tall, and that his head to body ratio is 1:9 instead of 1:7. So they've determined that he's not really human. And nobody's ever come forth and said, hey, I know that guy, or that's me. Same way for the other humanoid named Valiant Thor. There's pictures in Howard Menger's backyard from 1958 or somewhere in High Bridge, New Jersey. And the person that goes by that name and his alleged crew members are sitting there. So, I mean, they're real people, and August Roberts took a photograph of it, but nobody's ever identified those people or even said that they know who they are. So that lends some credence to that story. So apparently we've had various interactions with humanoid extraterrestrials here and there. Of course, there's the legend of Eisenhower in 1954 meeting with humanoid extraterrestrials and making a treaty with the wrong ones, for humans to be abducted in exchange for technology. He didn't buy the idea of getting rid of all the nukes on the Earth. So, they made an agreement, technological exchange, in other words.
Well, haven't you, I know that the singularity can get really complicated when you look at computation and how fast it's increased and everything. I don't think Ray Kurzweil has been off by no means as far as what he's, theorized in the timeline, but there is some people that say that, that nothing in nature follows exponential growth, right? I know there's a guy named Theodore Modis that talked about it also. The Christians talk about it too. And even evolutionary people say, well, nothing in nature, grows exponentially this way. But that doesn't mean, I think this is the biggest argument for it, or against it actually. But for it, I think computation would be like the one thing that is growing besides of what nature's always shown us. I mean, that's what Ray Kurzweil was trying to show us with the charts and stuff, right? Like that, how fast it was increasing. But there's not a lot of arguments against it.
Near. Yeah, well, you got to figure in 1997, the best that we had was a chess playing program. And if you go 20 years from now, we've got quantum computers that are interacting with parallel worlds to make computations. So we've had some help somewhere along the way. It's really hard for me to envision that in a 20-year period, just ordinary human beings came up with this stuff. There's a Dutch physicist, David Deutsch, that made a statement like that quantum computing is, for the first time in history, we've ascertained that there are, in fact, parallel worlds, and the computations that quantum computers are making actually interact with these worlds. And so computing has come a long way. And then you got Ben Gertzwell, I believe it was, that said that when he's there, they have to cool this chip down to almost like absolute zero for it to work properly. And he feels like he's standing in the midst of an alien god, which ironically, Dr. Nick Bostrom said that was one of the possibilities for artificial superintelligence, is that it would decide to become a planetary sovereign. In other words, basically steward the planet, just completely take the planet over. So the cognitive architecture that goes into the first AGI is crucial. So it could go either way. I mean, you've got people that paint this real dismal picture that Earth is going to be a prison planet. I've looked into Alana Freeland's work, Under an Ionized Sky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
According to Alana, through the chemtrails and whatever, we've already got aluminum and barium and nanobots in our system. Of course, that'll all dissolve when your body dies. I'm not really worried about that. At 65, if I've got aluminum, barium, and nanobots in my body, it's all going to go into the ground. I mean, I'm going elsewhere. So
were you told in your near-death experience by basically a voice or visions that you saw inside your own consciousness? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it was on a mental level, but it was real as rain, and it's hard. It was a moment of clairsentience. That's the way I understand it right now.
I got that.
Just like second sight, and that's hard to convey to somebody in words, but it's a purely subjective experience. I mean, I knew who it was that was there. I knew I was one of them, and I accepted the information that I was given, and I acted on it. And here I am, 11 or 12 years later. But I don't expect anybody, to take that, verbatim, because it's not their experience. It's like Whitley Strieber says, all I'm doing is reporting a subjective experience.
Yeah.
You can make of it, what you want. And I'm well aware of all the scientific explanations of the different chemicals that affect various parts of the brain. There's something called a Bohmian IMAX experience, that these chemicals that are uploaded into the amygdala and the hippocampus, produce this experience. But that's the same for psychedelics, though. And right now, people like Graham Hancock and Rick Strassman that wrote DMT, the spirit molecule, there's a hot debate right now whether these chemicals, because the only way we perceive reality the way we do is because of the chemical cocktail of neurotransmitters that are in our brains. And if you alter those chemicals, the way you perceive reality.
And that's where the episode ended, right there. The computer crashed, the system crashed. I couldn't get it rebooted. So we're going to have a part 2 with Mr. Brinegar. I apologize about this, folks, but we've rescheduled for a part 2 of the show. Thanks for listening.